Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And listening to the different stories, it really has touched me. So I would really like to thank the organizers that we have this possibility to celebrate the Rare Disease Day. And I believe, as said earlier, that together we can change the world. My name is Maria Kreis-Leosk. I work, sorry, Marika Lepaste. I work in Bosch on a daily basis, but today I am here to represent the Association of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers in Estonia, and I lead the market access working group, and its aim is to finance the different medicines to improve the lives of patients in Estonia. Uh, about the access to medicines in Estonia and the comparison with the European Union, we can see that Estonia is here and the average is here. So there's a long way to go to be on the average level when it comes to medicine availability. And if we compare ourselves to the Czech Republic, where the economic situation is similar, then they are 3 times ahead of us. So we different evaluation criteria for medicines in Estonia. They haven't changed during the last decade, but actually it's been longer even. And the issues with accessibility has also to do with the fact that elsewhere the criteria has been updated elsewhere in the world, and that's why the Association of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers asked the Center of Applied Research in Estonia to give us some information on the topic. And they provided a report on health technology assessment and process and decision criteria. They compared the data with other countries such as England, Ireland, Sweden, and Estonia, and they looked at different criteria, including the discount rate that I will talk about, and compared us with other Central and Eastern European countries such as Latvia, Lithuania, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Czech Republic. And we did have these 2 comparisons because there's specific guidelines in England, Ireland, Sweden, and Estonia, but in other countries we compared the specific criteria. What are the main conclusions? The main conclusion is that the cost effectiveness thresholds have remained the same in the last decade. But if we look at the threshold ratio to GDP per capita, then 10 years ago it was 1.5 and 3, but now it's 0.9 and 1.8. So comparing that with thresholds of other countries, we are far behind compared to other countries, also in Central and Eastern Europe. And we did have many constructive meetings with health insurance funds. It was a pleasure to see that the fund also found that we have to make some changes. And last year, new working group was launched, and there are representatives from different organizations. We have also the Estonian Chamber of People with Disability, the Ministry of Social Affairs, State Agency of Medicines, and our association, and the Health Insurance Fund, and the university. And the working group comes together once a month. Last year in April was our first meeting, and we had hoped that by the end of the year we would go through all the topics. But the reality is that we continue meeting today because we still have different topics to cover. We have talked about the preferable study designs, First of all, this is because we don't have to focus on randomized clinical trials, but in the context of medicines, we have different studies without reference groups that should be taken into account as well. And we do agree, more or less, that the more data we have, the better. And we have to use real life data. In Estonia, though, we have serious problems with the real life data because we don't have enough. But if we include data from other countries, this would be helpful. Also, in today's context, we are also planning to discuss the issue of rare diseases and rare medicines. We have already made our proposals, but we haven't heard the proposal by other groups yet. So that will be the topic in detail in our next. The main basis to decide whether to finance a medicine is ICER. This is a cost efficiency threshold. That means that this is an amount that we're willing to pay for a quality adjusted life year. And we already heard about QALY. This is the quality adjusted life year and quality of life. This is also taken into account by our health insurance fund. And the more we use it, the easier it will be to get financing. And this cost efficiency analysis takes into account the price, but also the reference medicines price. And if we compare two medicines, we have one that has been available for a long time. It's not very expensive compared to medicine for rare diseases, which is very expensive, or for a disease where we don't have a treatment, then the gap is very big. But we also take into account the specific time period, what's the time perspective, when we consider the cost efficiency. And we have to also take into account the discount rate in that context to make sure that the financing approaches in Estonia consider this ICER thresholds. And we have different pathways. This is the decision pathway of the health insurance fund, but it's similar for the rare disease and for the rare medicines, where we have different stakeholders that play their role in giving input. And it's the health insurance fund that evaluates if it's cost efficient or not. And currently, if ICER is 20,000 euros, then it's used for chronic diseases, but also for some cancer diseases that are early stage cancer diseases. Then QALY 40,000 euros we have for terminal illnesses, and sometimes it has been 100,000 euros for rare diseases, but there's always a ceiling that determines that the maximum amount per patient per year is 100,000 euros. And we have approximately 10 patients like that. And then for ultra rare disease, there's no ICER, but the ceiling is 300,000 euros, and we have seen that it has been used for only a couple of patients. And our association has proposed several actions and activities. Firstly, there should be a separate process for high added value innovative medicines. We should update the ICER thresholds, and they should be differentiated and it should be severity based. That means that we have an agreement in their society that we contribute more in case of very severe diseases, and that has already been agreed, for example, in the UK, the Netherlands, Norway, and also in our neighboring Lithuania. So if we have a milder disorder, then we have lower ICER, and for severe disorders, we have a higher ICER threshold. And our proposal mainly is to simplify the process in case for rare diseases. And what we've seen is that for over 90%, that there's no treatment. But if we do have a treatment for a rare disease, then it should reach the patient. When we look at the definition of rare disease, then in the European Union, it means a disease with a particularly low prevalence when it doesn't affect not more than 5 per 10,000 people. In Europe and Estonia, it's 50 per 100,000 people, and they also consider the fact that if it brings specific benefits to the patient or it has really serious impacts on the patient's condition. And there's also a rare disease list to designate the specific diseases accordingly. We also analyzed the situation of rare orphan medicine financing, and in Scotland, for example, there is a different pathway for ultra rare medicines. There's different criteria. So it's 1 in 50,000 people, the prevalence. There has to be a marketing authorization. It has to cause chronic or severe disability. And there's a need of very specific treatment. In that case, there's no need of cost efficiency analysis, and the financing is given for 3 years when additional data has to be collected. In Lithuania, on the other hand, for very rare diseases, there's a pathway which is patient-based, and it's possible to get the financing from the patient. If the incidence is 1 in 200,000, it has to be life-threatening or causing permanent severe disability. There's no alternative means of treatment. It has to be registered as a orphan medicine, and all the efficiency data and international guidance data has to be presented, and there's also price negotiations that take place. In Czech Republic, when we talk about medicine with the orphan status, there's no ICER threshold, and the final decision depends on the recommendation of the Orphan Medicine Committee. In Lithuania, the medicine has to be designated as an orphanate orphan medicine, and the threshold is 300,000. In Slovakia, it's more flexible. Sometimes it's necessary to have the cost efficiency analysis, but sometimes not. If not, then you have a higher ICER threshold depending on the quality that it implies. And comparing these examples with the pathways in Estonia, we put forward our proposal to have the rare diseases as a separate category without this analysis. And instead of cost efficiency analysis, you should use the budget impact analysis, because we don't have sufficient data. We have smaller cohorts. Very often there's no reference alternative. And as we all know, very often the price is much higher for a treatment. And our proposal included the option to combine it with different criteria if we have a really a severe condition, for example. So there should be a different financing process if it's a ultra rare disease medicine, which incidence is up to 1 in 100,000 people. In Estonia, that means approximately or maximum 13 people per year. And the proposal is that the threshold could be 400,000 euros, considering that again it's life-threatening, there's no alternative means, and it's really a rare disease. And when we talk about hyper-rare diseases, then there has to be a separate process. We're talking about diseases not affecting more than 1 in 200,000 people. That means 6 people in Estonia per year. And this 1 in 200,000 was taken from the Lithuanian example, and there shouldn't be any ceiling because treatments are very expensive, so it should be negotiable. There should be maybe a separate budget for those diseases, and maybe the doctor should have the ability to apply a personalized discount rate, and it should be something similar to our current patient-focused approach. And when initially we were supposed to talk about rare medicine financing in November last year, but last month was finally when I presented the same topics to the committee, and we will discuss it in April. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Any questions? Microphone, please. Yes, I'm also from the Association of the Doctors and the Gene Therapy. I wanted to ask if you analyzed if the availabilities was somehow connected to the health spending, because the spending levels in Estonia are different compared to other countries. And secondly, how often is the price policy taking into account the common rules in the European Union? Thank you very much for the question. Firstly, we did analyze that, and I didn't mention it, but in our working group, we do discuss, among other things, that the healthcare spending should be looked at as an investment. So we talk about direct and indirect costs. So if we invest in rare diseases, we could spend less in other spheres. We can boost our economy, we are helping our society, our people. So in the end, it's beneficial if we don't, for example, have to pay unemployment benefits. Now, secondly, the price. Indeed, we are a small country, so we don't have separate prices. And we do appreciate those companies that have come here and have stayed here, because looking at our thresholds, financing is extremely difficult. So from our side, we try to find the most flexible options, and very often more flexible than in bigger countries. And today we have different schemes provided by the health insurance funds. As a member state of the European Union, of course, we have certain rules, but we have then different schemes to take into account when applying reimbursement rates. Yes, thank you. I have a question about the working group. Maybe I didn't see well, but I wanted to ask about the working group that started meeting since March last year. You have concluded that things are not well, but do you really have specialists that work with patients every day in your working group? Unfortunately, I have to admit that no, we have proposed it several times that we should have experts in our working group. It hasn't been up to us, but currently they are not engaged, and it would actually be very important. Thank you very much, Marika, for this presentation.